So War of the Worlds 2025 is the classic H.G. Wells story, but seen through the lens of Screen Life movies. Now, if you're not familiar, Screen Life movies are movies that are seen entirely from a computer desktop or like a smartphone, but mostly, just like a computer desktop. So there are a few examples of great films that we've gotten with this concept. There are, fairly notable films like Searching and Missing were really good examples. Open Windows, I wasn't a big fan of, but it was fairly twisty with its concept. I appreciated the tinkering that it did with, having like the camera keep pulling further and further back by showing all the different applications that were being used. But I do like the prevalence of this subgenre, because I think the fact that there are so many of these films now, it kind of like raises the stakes, because, now, especially after like the COVID-19 pandemic, we're all familiar with the online digital spaces and our computer desktops that if something doesn't look right, if something's being faked, we can pick up on it immediately. So these types of films do have to be smart. And that's why I really like films like Searching and Missing. I felt those films actually did a pretty good job using Screen Life. But now we have War of the Worlds, and this is, I think, most people would probably agree, this has got to be the worst Screen Life film ever made. And for the reasons that I just stated, which is that, a lot of people, even those who are not that familiar with computers, they're going to pick up on what's wrong with this film immediately. They're going to pick up on the fact that this is a film that follows a DHS agent played by Ice Cube, who's supposed to have, all this advanced knowledge on surveillance and keeping track of people and, going into meetings easily and working with like the government through the, through this data center. And he doesn't quite understand aspects of the internet, and it's just like, that's something that most audiences are going to pick up on immediately. It's like, hey, this isn't working, because the whole premise behind this film is that it's War of the Worlds, but it's seen entirely from the perspective of Ice Cube's character of Will Radford, who works at the Department of Homeland Security, and it's seen from his point of view while working surveillance and trying to figure out a strategy. Now, the thing is, the premise of this film is not a bad one. I actually think there is something that you could do with this material that can make it intriguing. But the thing is, you really do have to have like the smarts to kind of stage it in a believable way that would, generate intensity and drama more effectively rather than artificially. And it's unfortunate that this film doesn't do that. It bounces between so many aspects of trying to define Will as a character and make this alien invasion seen from the Department of Homeland Security be believable, and it just can't balance it. It can't balance, the types of applications that they're using. It can't balance the back and forth between the characters. It can't balance Ice Cube's reactions effectively. It can't even balance time. There are several sequences in this film where you think that, like, based on what Ice Cube is doing with, like, coordinating attacks against the aliens, that, like, hours or at the very, like, days or hours are passing with, like, how quickly everything is moving, when in essence, they pull back and then they turn to another plot line and they reveal, oh, no, this has actually been going on for, like, a few minutes or an hour at most. It's like, you're really able to dart back and forth between talking to your daughter and coordinating this alien attack that is having like huge like losses and victories immediately. Because the film darts back and forth, like I said, like there's the standard alien invasion where Will is monitoring everything, documenting everything, trying to come up with a strategy with his with people that he's working with. So like there's Sandra, played by Eva Longoria, who's working at NASA. There's Clark Gregg, who's the director of the Department of Homeland Security. They basically coordinate. It's mostly just exposition, and not even good exposition. It really feels like Ice Cube is struggling to get some of these lines. Like they plopped them down in like in his home computer and just said, read this quickly. We only paid for you for like the hour, so read this as quickly as you can. We need to get this shot right now. And they dart between that and him trying to look after his two children. So like one is like his pregnant daughter that he's keeping track of, because she's hurt. She's right in the crossfire. So he's trying to keep track of her. He's also trying to, keep tabs on his hacker son who has information for stopping the aliens. And he's also being in contact with his daughter's fiance, who is an Amazon delivery driver. And you can probably see where this is going. You can probably guess that this film that debuted on Prime Video has a lot of forced product placement in here for Amazon delivery stuff, which is why it was no surprise that by the climax of this film, like, Amazon's Prime delivery ends up being the thing that saves the day here. And probably the most grotesque bit of, like, product placement I've seen in a film in a long time. It just really falters on that level. And it's not, there's nothing all that interesting or entertaining about what they're trying to do here. It's like, hey, what if we did War of the Worlds, but through screen life, which again is a concept you could do, but you really need to think about how you set it up and how you establish the characters and make it believable enough that it's seen from this character's point of view, which the film doesn't do. And another bad idea is like, hey, what if instead of, how like in the original story, it's like, the viruses of the human body that affect the aliens. What if it's a computer virus? Well, that's not novel either. We've seen that in Independence Day, but how about this? What if instead of not doing product placement, we make the climax involve Amazon's new like air delivery service and advertise that in the film? It's like that doesn't work. And I think there's so much that doesn't work about this film, from how it's edited to how it keeps track of time to how the apps are used. Like, there's a scene where Will uncovers this great conspiracy about how the government knew the aliens were coming, and he's immediately kicked out of his computer. Like, internet is shut off immediately, and we have to endure watching Will, open his browser and realize, oh man, the connection's bad. Like, I hit refresh, it's like, of course it's not going to come up if you hit they took off the internet. Like, this is your job. You should know when the connection is not there. And the film, and I know why the director does this, because the director wants to evoke the dramatic tension of Will being in disbelief, like, no, the internet can't be shut off. But it's like, this is your job. You should know this. This isn't like, like something like Unfriended, where it's the teenagers who like can't figure out the windows that they've opened, or they can't force quit their programs, stuff like that. This is someone who should be capable, and he's not. Not to mention, even if like you divorce like, the tech stuff and the exposition that he's forced to dole out here, the emotional beats that he has here are just so hollow. Like, throughout all this, like, he's darting between talking to his daughter, talking to his son, keeping track of reports, looking at cameras, talking to the DHS, talking to NASA, talking to the president. Between all of this, he has opened up an email that he's going to write as kind of like his last it's like his last will and testament kind of to his children. And it's just, you can really tell like he's struggling to write here, because like it comes off as the most bland, dear daughter and son, I've never been able to be open with you since the death of our mother. It's like, I don't believe this is how a character would talk like this. I would believe it if it would be more believable to me if he copied and pasted it from just like, he was like struggling to find the right words and just went to a website and it's like, how do I write the last letter that I'll ever write to my children, and just copied and pasted something in there. At least then there could be some levity, as opposed to just Ice Cube's general reactions of just reacting to, I have to assume like they didn't even finish the visual effects, and he's just reacting to nothing, because he's just giving like standard reactions of, oh, that's what I'm talking about, or how you like me now. And it's just like, I'm not feeling it here, man. I'm not feeling it just with you sitting in your office watching aliens on little screens here, and just being like, oh yeah, we're gonna take the fight to them, we're gonna put a computer virus in them. It's not selling it. And I think like there are many things that went wrong with this film, but I think the biggest thing that can be learned is just that an alien invasion is more exciting to watch from the ground than it is from a data center. So yeah, this is the worst screen life film. This is the worst adaptation of War of the Worlds, and hopefully there won't be a film to replace those two, those two titles, because I really feel like this is a poor use of the screen life type of subgenre movie format, and just a terrible way to adapt War of the Worlds and make it like the most least interesting narrative, and just poorly performed and forced in with product placement. It's just, everything here combines to just be like the perfect recipe for a terrible very cheap looking sci-fi film, which it wasn't. They spent quite a few $1,000,000 on this project, and it's not there. So yeah, the new War of the Worlds is not that fun for being for taking that classic novel and making it into a screen life film, mostly just because the direction to make that kind of film work isn't there. So yeah, this is definitely the worst of War of the Worlds.